Welcome, everyone. It's a special call tonight. We have a very special guest. I'm Marilyn Mosier out of Northwest Iowa and do these weekly calls with some amazing people. We have an amazing culture here at our Life Vantage family, and we all collaborate to work together to share this amazing information that we know about and help people just live their best life, right? So Dr. Brett Brimhall has over 20 years experience in the chiropractic field. He and his dad actually formulated different supplements to be used in the nutrition and medical field to help people with different issues, right? So he has a chiropractic practice in that actually he just sold, I believe, in Gilbert, Arizona, and he and his wife have 4 beautiful children. And he actually travels around sharing techniques. I think this weekend he said he's going to be teaching 50 physicians on a technique called the Brimhall technique. So he is very well renowned, and we are just so honored to have a little bit of his time tonight to share with us, because tonight is, or this month is Autism Awareness Month. And we know that it is really affects a lot of kids and young adults. And there is so many, different issues that we can address with the tools and activators that our company has that have been tested over time and are peer reviewed and published on PubMed. So I'm going to toss it to you, Dr. Brimhall, and let you open us up with a little bit of your story and with all of your expertise with the nutrition and different supplements. Why were you attracted to our company? And just share a little bit about, why we're different in that arena.
Hey, all y'all. Thank you for being here. And when you texted me this morning, I was kind of like, yes. My first reaction, just because kids are they're on my heart, right? I have 4 kids. My wife and I have 4 children. And at the end of the day, like, I want them to be safe, number one. And then I want them to be secure. Then I want them to be happy. And then I want them to find a way to have fulfillment. And my whole goal with them is that when I'm not here, right, that for whatever reason, like when I pass on, that they know that they'll have the confidence and the ability to be successful in taking care of their own selves and their families. And so, as I spent, most of my life in this space of health and wellness, because that's just what I grew up with. When I watch families that struggle, that have kids and other families that struggle, and they're not sure that they'll be, number one, safe, or that they'll have much hope, it's super hard to as a clinician to want to do anything I possibly can to help them, right? And so when I was taking care of a little boy who was diagnosed with autism, I want you guys to think for a minute. Right, of people like kids, maybe nephews, maybe nieces, maybe friends of friends, and just throw their first names in the chat, right? Of maybe people that are on your heart right now that know that they have struggles. Because this little boy, like, he came to me when he was 3. He was diagnosed at 2 with autism, right? So what that looked like was this: like, he struggled with learning. He was still in diapers at 3 when I saw him. He didn't know his letters, didn't know his numbers. He was seeing therapists 30 plus hours a week to try to learn how to behave, to try to learn how to communicate, right? To try to just to integrate into life. And that was his life, right? So his parents were, their goal was to really unlock his potential, right? For first, that he could be safe, right? And then to be able to hopefully be able to go out on his own someday. And throughout my practice for 20 plus years, like, I've seen kids that I could help a lot, and some that it was not as near as much as what I hoped for, and really sometimes very minimal. And so I wasn't looking for a company at that time, but I worked with this little boy literally for a whole year, did everything that we know, which we call the 6 steps to wellness. So it's literally doing everything from physical to emotional to detox. And it's still after a year of working with him every week for a year. And he's doing 35 hours of therapy on top of that with other people. he's still in diapers. He's still struggling with behavior and learning. Like he'd come to my office and destroy my office, right? Because he just like kind of tear it up. And some of you guys relate to this. Like this is your life. And I still remember his mom coming in and she goes, he's starting to notice he's different. Like he's getting better, but that means he's also noticing he's different. His therapist, he realized her therapist, not necessarily his friends, right? And it made me, and she said he just wants to be smart like his brother. And that still tears at me when I think about it, because like I'm doing everything I can, she's doing everything you can. And maybe you're in that space, maybe you know somebody like that, but literally you're doing everything that you know, and there's still a big struggle, and you're looking, right? So I'm glad you're here. And maybe there's some people you'll think about tonight that you're on here, and please reach out to them. Because this little boy came in after he started a product called Axio, which is a nootropic, which we'll talk about that a little bit, but it's a drink designed to address brain fatigue. And literally 11 days into him starting that, his verbal skills had improved over 50%. He came in my office and sat still, which is a big deal. He went back in the back and he was following directions on point, which was a big deal, right? He wasn't destroying my office, which was a big deal, right? So, and he was discussing things that we had been worked with him on for over a year. So all that stuff that we wonder if it's getting into people, and maybe that's you, right? You wonder if it's in there. Well, a lot of times it's in there, it can't get back out. And what this drink did, it activated his brain's ability to learn, retain, remember, and then recall the information, integrate it to where he could express more of what was going on. And as I've watched him over the last 7 years now of doing these things, and the therapy is now working. Like it was already working, but it was now integrating. Now he's doing things like literally in a normal school. They don't know his diagnosis, right? Because at the end of the day, guys, a diagnosis is just a category we put people in to try to get them the right services to help them have success, right? That's a diagnosis, right? And so maybe you don't have a diagnosis, or maybe someone you love doesn't have a diagnosis, but they struggle in other ways, maybe not as severe as what I discussed, but you still wonder, is it possible that there's some of the stuff that could apply to them? It absolutely is. So that's a long way of answering like how I got here, because my dad was a formulator. I've been in the formulation world my whole life. So I always made products we needed. That's what my dad did. He'd literally make the products we needed. We were discussing that on the way over here, actually, about some of the stuff he's got going on. We didn't go look for a product. Like he would make it, right? So when I saw this and I realized, man, we can't even make this stuff. Like, how's it working? It made me realize the way that this company and LifeVantage that now I'm a part of is making stuff is very different, because the questions that you're answering will give you a very different result. And the way we're looking at things is very different than other companies, just because of the capacity to test.
Right. And I remember meeting you for the first time in 2014 when we were launching Axio for the first time, because the scientist was coming to Sioux Falls that formulated it. And you hopped on a plane and came from Arizona to South Dakota. Yep. Just because you were so intrigued by what this product did for little Luke. And
that was in October, guys. And you don't leave Arizona at the end of October to go to South Dakota. But I came because Carrie knew that I needed to. I mean, I had some blocks to the idea that a company like a network marketing company, which LifeVantage is, would produce a product that I put my name behind, right? And that was always really important to me. So, but to come and meet the people and to hear the science, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is different. And so I'm glad that we're doing it this way, because guys, for every one person that's on here, probably 10 to 20 people that are looking for this. Right. And I don't know who that is. And I hope that you share it with them in hopes that it can give them some hope. So,
right. And so just a little quick kind of a synopsis of why is oxidative stress. So that's what this product addresses, is Axio. And then we're also talking about Protandim is clinically proven to reduce oxidative stress by 40% in 30 days. Why is that a big deal? And what does that have to do with autism?
Awesome. So if I can just for a second share my screen, I promise I won't kid a lot of science like this is going to bore you, right? I promise you. Okay. But I want you to know that these words you're going to hear that maybe you've heard of them or you're not sure what they are, this is where we need to go. This is what we need to understand, and we need to have solutions to this. So I'm going to introduce you guys to a place called PubMed.gov. It's a website where they pull the current research up, right? This is what it is, right? So this is where the current research that is published goes there. Peer reviewed means that you can't just put anything there. And from perspective, so my dad and I've been teaching for 40 plus years, like hit 40 plus years. We have 0 studies on PubMed on the over 200 products he's created, 0. Right? Just from a perspective, that's how hard it is there. And literally, I've taught thousands of clinicians in 20 years. He's taught, who knows, tens of thousands, right? But 0, right? So just from a perspective, but I want you to kind of understand a couple of things here. So I'm going to see if I can just share this real quick with you. And let me share my screen. Where's it at? All right. So if you go to PubMed.gov, guys, and you just type in the search bar, like autism and nootropics, autism in and of itself, or here's autism, and you'll see like these are the studies that they're looking at. And there's just, I type in autism, there's almost 57,000 studies on autism on this site. Look at this one here, pathophysiology and promising herbal remedies, autism-related disorder diagnosis. This is one I thought was pretty cool. Autism risk factors, genes, environment, and gene-environmental interactions. There's a lot to do with that. And let me show you one of the one I thought was kind of cool too. I mean, all these are fun, I think. The role of NAD, oxidative stress, tryptophan, and metabolism in autism, right? Those are all kind of funky words, right? And I'll kind of just make them simple as far as the others, but just, I want you to have a little perspective. Like this study, guys, was done in 2013. So just realize what they're studying on this site won't be in clinical practice for usually anywhere from 15 to 17 years down the road. So some of these things you may be hearing about, your doctor may not have taught you about. Not because they don't want to know, but it literally just takes that much time. Because when I took a test on a subject, guess what? That's the same test my dad took like back in 1970. Some of the same questions, right? But there's a lot of new stuff that's happened since then. And we can type in other things that relate to nutritional supplements like nootropics and autism. I'm going to highlight what I would call the key points, because as you look at like the world of supplements, you will find that there's a vast amount of like people out there talking about this supplement will do this or this supplement will do this and fixing autism. Guys, we're not fixing autism, right? So what we're doing, we're understanding that no matter how you feel or how you function is a result of what you're currently doing and what you currently believe. So if you're hanging around people that believe your body cannot get better, you need to change friends, all right? If you believe that there's nothing you can do to change that, you need to change friends, all right? Because you wouldn't take the oldest cell phone out there, you take the freshest and newest, right? Because you want the latest and greatest. You need to look at the same thing when it comes to your information, the supplementation you're taking, everything else like that. So to come back to your question, when it comes to oxidative stress, there's 3 main processes. I'm gonna talk about 4. There's a process called oxidative stress. So guys, what that is, that's rust. So outside in the world, when things break down or they age or they get older, right? In like South Dakota, right, where Maryland lives, or Iowa, where it rains and snows, metal rusts. That's oxidation. In Arizona, when sun hits anything, it oxidizes it and makes it very brittle. Inside your cells, that same thing occurs. It oxidizes. And when things oxidize, they aren't very usable. So inside your cells, there's processes that work to help reduce that oxidative stress. And so we always hear eat your fruits and vegetables. So that's one form of getting what's called antioxidants. So things that get rid of oxidative stress, that's the fruits and vegetables. So you want that. But the reality is that you want those inside your cell, not the outside of your cell. So the body has mechanisms through the genes to turn on switches to make that stuff, right? So think of it like giving the kid the answer or teaching the person how to learn. So we want your cells to know how to do it. And what they're looking at, Protandim Nerve 2 specifically, which is one of the products Marilyn was held up, that combination of nutrients turns on the switches on the inside of the cell to make enzymes to reduce that oxidative stress by an average of 40% in 30 days, but get this, by up to 70% in 3 months. All right, one of which being glutathione, which is, if you kind of look that up, that's one of the biggest antioxidants we know to date that had a huge impact on the body's ability to repair. That's why you'll see people do IV glutathione, and they use it a lot with kids with autism, right? Because it helps protect the nerves. It's a nerve-related problem. So if you want to have your body heal better than it is currently right now, you increase the enzymes that your body produces, and you can do it through the activation of this pathway known as NRF2. And it's, from what I know, there's only one thing that does what this does, and that's the proton of NRF2. But if you do that, so imagine, right? So I went to school, I think I learned addition first, and I learned subtraction and then division, all the other things. So when you have a brain that is having a hard time learning addition, it's going to really have a hard time doing calculus. All right. So when you can get the body to start learning by decreasing oxidative stress, it can then learn new subjects. Does that make sense? And so unless you can get the cells to learn, there's not a whole lot of hope. So when you see you have to repeat, like with your kids, repeat yourself or anything else, like that means the brain's not learning. And that means that it's not repairing. And so that goes back to the oxidative stress response. Right, so that's the NRF2, because it can increase those enzymes. And if we do that, we're going to speed up the process of how the brain learns. That makes sense?
Right. And then also, so it's been said that kids that have autism that are on this spectrum have lower SOD levels. Do you want to explain the importance of that?
And here's the thing is, guys, so what they're knowing, that when you look at a lot of these studies, they talk about, what are the commonalities with autism? And let's just talk about neurodegeneration, or a brain that's not functioning as well as the other one. All right. What that means is that some cells repair faster than other cells, right? And some of it's based on genetics. So is there anything you can do about it? So some of the enzymes that we find are less than like the average are glutathione, superoxide dismutase catalase. These are big words, right? Bottom line is, you have a cell that can run. Like this, if I'm going to run against somebody else, right? So if I practiced, I could probably get faster, right? I could probably get faster, but what if I could improve my cell's ability to make enzyme? I could run even faster. So when you're talking about the cells, the ability for that cell to run faster has everything to do with how fast it can repair. And that's the big enzymes. So like that to a nerve cell, like that's literally proton of NRF2. If you do that, and then you can help the cells make more energy, and the cells could communicate better, guess what? You have a big combination. So if I could do 3 things for every person on the planet, but especially with those that are struggling. And guys, this is true, like literally for like us that maybe we don't have a condition, right? Or for those people that really are struggling, right? If you can improve their body's ability to repair, which reduce oxidative stress, if you can help the body make more energy through the mitochondria, and you can help the body communicate better with, which is called sirtuin activation, that's the process of recycling in the body. You do those 3 things, and then you can supplement with the things that the body needs to make things, you can have a drastic impact on the outcome of an individual.
Right. And so the 3 products that you promote, then that's the NRF2 activation, the NRF1 for mitochondrial function, and then NAD for the sirtuin activation. And then how do nootropics fit into the deal, and what is that?
Yeah, and there's like my dad, I told you, he made 200 different products. Like, why so many? Like, really, why so many? Because the old adage is I'm looking for deficiencies. I'm looking for, hey, I'm maybe deficient in vitamin D, or maybe I'm deficient in vitamin C, or maybe I'm deficient in tryptophan, right? Well, yes, you might be deficient in those, but here's the crazy thing. If you have all those ingredients and you bring them on the counter and you set them there, right? And you don't put them together in the right ratios and bake it at the right time, the right temperature, the right amount of time, guess what? You don't get what you're looking for. So when these products were made, they literally were in the lab and they were looking at how much more end product can we get? Like how much more glutathione can we get? How much more superoxide can we get? So nootropics fit in there based on your question. So that's why the activation is 3 keys. So instead of using 200 products, right, to try to address individuals, which we do, every individual on the planet oxidizes and ages. I have yet met a person that doesn't age. Like I haven't seen it yet. And I haven't met a person on the planet you can plug into a wall yet to power them up. That means you got to activate the mitochondria. And as of yet, I haven't found a way where we can increase cellular communication other than with sirtuin. Like I just haven't seen other than intermittent fasting. All right. So you need to have that ability to turn those switches on. So instead of like just using ingredients, you're activating pathways. That's a very different concept and process. The nootropics fit in kind of like with the activation, like kind of at that, but also a nootropic is something that actually enhances like the brain cells, like protects brain cells. That's the definition. It has to enhance and or protect a brain cell. Right. So,
and that's the Axio.
And that's the Axio. And so I still remember when Carrie gave her son this. And at first, like, I'm like, yeah, let's give a hyper 4-year-old an energy drink. Like that was my first reaction to Axio because it was designed for like an energy drink. And like that literally came out of my mouth. You guys ever said something you wish you hadn't? Okay, well, I'm a guy, so am I the only guy on here?
Yeah, apparently.
Oh, gee. Okay, I'm really in trouble. Right. As soon as that crossed my tongue, I'm like, a lot of the medications that we give people for focus and concentration are stimulants. So wouldn't it make sense if those stimulants help people with focus, if it helps them stay in the zone, that there might be a natural alternative that could do the same thing without the side effects? Well, thank goodness, LifeVantage has scientists that were ahead of the curve on that, and they literally were trying to find a way to address brain fatigue. And it came out of looking at athletes. And why do some athletes give up? Guys, most of the time it's not a give up of body, it's a give up of brain. Right? It could give up a brain. And so how many times a child or an adult that when their brain just says it has enough, they want to give up, or they get agitated, or they get angry, or they get sad. Guys, that's what Axio does. It allows the brain to coordinate and activate that brain so there's less brain fatigue. Because in a kid that is diagnosed with autism, that might look like, man, if you change something on them, they're gonna be really, really mad at you. Right? And they might throw things, they might kick, or they might see one that they just shut down 100% and they just want to go hide in their room. Well, guess what? That can also be an adult. Like they're just having life happen to them and just super down. That's the nootropic. Right? And actually was designed to address brain fatigue. I don't think they had any idea the effect it would have on all of us. Like that's why I'm with this company, and that's why I'm so passionate, because I know of so many people that I wish I would have had all these things with to use years ago, right? And there's never been a more important time for us to address brain fatigue than now, because most of the fatigue we all face and our kids are facing is the worry and concerns that some of them aren't even real. We make them up in our heads, okay? And that causes brain fatigue, which causes indecision, which causes breakdown. And then you can't coordinate thoughts and activities, and then you lose hope, and then kind of down the spiral. So.
And then also the Axio has vitamin B and B12, is it B6?
Yeah, so it's interesting. Look what's in Axio. So L-theanine, green tea, DMAE, quercetin, right? All of these things are individual nutrients known to affect brain function ideally. And you guys, with this last little bit, with what's happened in our world the last couple of years, you've seen a lot of people take quercetin because it had an effect on the immune response too, but also an effect on brain cells, right? That's why you'll see some people with that, what they call long haulers, because their brain's still fatigued, and that's where the quercetin can come in handy. So I want you to think differently and opposed of, hey, I just want this ingredient, right? Because yes, you want the ingredient, but it needs to be the right type, the right dose, and the right ratios to cause a very specific result. And that's one thing that LifeVantage, I truly believe, has done very differently, is they weren't looking to say, I'm going to go, and we've done this study on quercetin, I'm going to find a quercetin, and I'm going to use that quercetin and say ours is good. No, literally, like they're taking different ingredients, combining them, and watching what happens inside the cell. That's a hard thing to do, because in clinical practice, the way we worked, we would work with patients. We'd look at lab work, right? But we didn't have the ability to look at inside the cell and watch what happens. What happens inside the cell happens inside millions and trillions of cells that result in how you feel today. Right. So it's a very, 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 very different process. And so when you look at the ingredients, which are all critical and important, which I love, they're phenomenal ingredients. The magic, I think, truly had to do with the way it was combined. And even when you look at the products we're talking about, those three, the trisynerate and Axio, and how they respond together, it's brilliant in what you'll see happen.
So you've seen, yeah, thousands of patients, and you've seen after using these products and of course your therapies, but
I was
you've
thinking
seen
about a couple
changes in behavior, changes in speech
Mhm.
development, changes in, I mean, could you just change?
Yeah, let me tell you, I'll tell you guys a couple quick stories. And why I'm doing this, I want you to think about maybe, and in the chat, guys, throw in the chat maybe people you've, just their first name, right? Or maybe what you saw happen in them, right? But I wrote a few names down because it just made me really grateful for, you know, the changes that happened that allowed me to help get in the way. So for one of them, Luke, like what I saw in his ability to communicate and then act appropriately socially, right? Where he became the peer model for how to act appropriately, right? I know you guys know some husbands that maybe need some of that. Okay. And then I talked to a mom today. She has 2 kids. One was severe autism, right, on medications, and she's just worried if he'll have to live with her forever, right? And I'm excited for them to get started on some of this stuff. Okay. Another little boy, he was on 3 medications at the time, couldn't sleep, like made the whole house chaos, right? Just because like if something changed, like it would outburst, and sometimes he'd run away. Right. And watching the regulations happen where now he's off all 3 medications and he sleeps through the night. He held his mom's hand for the first time after a couple of weeks of being on the product. Right. So that's appropriate social interaction. I think about this little girl. I've literally taken care of her since I was like 7. And so I did everything I used to do with her up until 7 years ago. And she was one of the first people I called because like I watched her struggle. Like her and her mom, we were excited one time when she could like order Subway by herself, like actually like tell the person what she wanted. Like that was a big deal. Or when she was able to go in the library and return a library book and she was safe. Well, I've watched this young lady now, she's in her 20s, hold down a job. She's able to act in plays and show emotions. Right, have friends and do things with friends, all this stuff that she never could have done on her own before, right? I think about, I'll do a live here a little bit later with a friend of mine and watching his own daughter like struggle, literally having, you know, just wondering if somebody would take advantage of her in life just because, you know, she just learned slow, to now watching how she is a mom of a beautiful child and like super productive and handles things so differently because her brain is now learning and retaining and recalling where before it was not. Right? And that's what we have our hand on when it comes to activation, and not trying to just be a better product. It's just literally answering a question that we didn't realize was that important to answer, and knowing that we have that response.
So basically it's, yeah, all about having, you know, a proper way to activate your brain and not be relying on outside, you know, taking a bunch of antioxidants. It's about activating our own antioxidants to produce in our cells. So basically that's why it's such a game changer, why it's so different. It's not outside activate. It's not outside supplementation. It's activation from within, correct?
And that's probably the biggest difference. Most of us look at products, we hear about products, and they say this product, it's not so much what the product is, it's what the product does to the cell.
Right.
And that's a very different concept.
And we just came out this month with the new Orange Crush or Orange Creamsicle, Orange Cream Axio. So I mix it with my protein shake in the morning, and it's like a creamsicle for breakfast. But it's brand new and it's absolutely delicious. But we have several different flavors if you want samples. Otherwise, get back to the person that invited you to this webinar and get your questions answered, because we have different stacks that address different, for different solutions that you're looking for. We have one called the Focused Stack, and that's the NAD, the Axio, and the Protandim. And those are the three that we talked about tonight, plus NRF1 as well for mitochondrial. But there's so many solutions that we have if you're looking for that. And if not, you're here to learn, that's fine. We're not going to push any agenda on you. We just want you to know that this exists. And if it's not right for you, maybe you can tell someone that it could help, because we're all about gifting this information to people that are looking for solutions. So Dr. Brimhall, is there any other closing statements you want to make?
Yeah, a couple of things. And Kathy, thank you for sharing that on your grandson. Appreciate that. And then the question on someone asked about with kids, right? So this is how I look at that. Okay, when it comes to these kids and if it's safe to use, right? So I've used all these products with my kids since I got involved with the company. And here's why. And I love this question. At the same time, I kind of question the question. What I mean by that is, I've had more people ask me if a supplement's safe than I have if a Dorito is safe for a kid. Like I really have. And it's kind of puzzling to me. And I was one time teaching, and this guy asked me if Axio was safe for kids. And I was kind of, I guess I was having one of those nights. And I said, well, it's probably a lot safer than that Diet Coke you just fed her. She's like 2-year-old, right? She's sipping on the Diet Coke. And so, but I actually really appreciate the question. So what you'll see with any supplement company, especially a high quality one like us, there's publicly traded, they're going to have labels on it say that it's not for kids. Right? It's a protection thing that we just do because you want to go ask your physician, right? But if you look at the ingredients that's in it, these things it's safe and effective, right? So for me and my family, like I take it because I want the good things in my body that I know is safe, and I know it's healthy, and I know that the process gone to create it. You may do a lesser dose with a kid than you would as an adult, but literally once that child is over like 75 pounds, like I know some adults that are 75 to 80 pounds, right? So that's kind of an adult dose. But also you think of the severity of some of these kids and the struggles they have, and their bodies they're already struggling more so than a lot of us. They might need a adult sized dose, right? And really the worst thing that would happen, right, with any of these ingredients is they might get diarrhea. Right, that's really so in high doses. But I guess the only one thing I would say is just so with the Axio drink, it has niacin in it. If you do niacin on an empty stomach, you can get what's called a niacin flush, and you'll feel like you have a rash for about 30 minutes. It's a healthy thing. It's not a big deal, but just know that's normal with niacin.
You just kind of get a red face sometimes.
You'll get a little red face, yeah. Right? So if you want to scare somebody, do that. But as far as safe with kids, yes, right. And especially if you look at what's in the world out there in the world today, like so I want you just for kicks and giggles, go look at baby formula and tell me if that's something that you would want to eat yourself, right? And that's considered safe for kids, right? Or a Dorito, or a Cheeto,
Mountain Dew.
No. But I'm just so I love the question. When somebody asks you that question, I think it's a fair thing. Just we need to do these things, right? This, in my opinion, taking this sort of things and get them our kids as young as we can, because there's so much of our environment we cannot control. Not only the foods, but a lot of the environmental exposures we're getting, both on the things that are seen, the things that aren't unseen, that we need to protect ourselves from.
Exactly. So many wonderful points that you brought up tonight. We're really cognizant of your time. I know you've got to get on another meeting, but so those key areas that we discussed, the NAD, NRF2, and Axio for nootropics, and then also you talked a little bit about the NRF1 pathway. All of those things are activating our cells. I know Kathy Macbeth on our call here, her older son has, was he on the spectrum with ADHD and autism, but he's actually getting married and holds a job, and
he's the one that had the head injury when he was little.
Okay.
And boy, I really wish, he's 28 years old now. I really wish this would have been around then, but we definitely notice a difference with him. Big difference with the Axio as far as the fluency of his speech.
And
But
he used
it's
to have
our-
seizure. He used to have seizures. Did he have epilepsy? Or
Yep, he's got epilepsy, but since he's been on the products, and he started with all of them, okay? Not as good about taking the Axio regularly like he should, but he's on the others. And what was I gonna say about that? Sorry, I'm really tired.
Yeah, you said he's doing so much better with, without having.
Yeah.
So what?
Sorry, I lost it. I didn't sleep well last
so
night.
What you said, Kathy, I think is powerful. How old was he when he had the hand injury?
He was, let's see, it was about 2 months before he turned 5.
Okay, so you're talking about a 5-year-old that had actual struggles, like significant struggles, school, behavior, learning, job holding, and how long ago did he start taking the products?
When was I, let's see, diagnosed?
You've been in
September. I think that he started on it roughly October or November of 2016.
All right, so guys, so keep that in mind. So from the time he was 5 till basically he was like in his late teenage years, right?
End of 2016 is when he would have started the product.
And how old would he have been then?
He's 28 now.
So he'd have been in his early 20s.
Yes.
Okay. So the case in point is this, guys, is that it doesn't matter when you start them. Your brain is performing as it is based on what is given and your body, right? But if that can happen in an injured brain, okay? So the brain still had the injury, but it was trying to repair based on what it had, right? So whether you've had a physical injury or emotional stressors injury, or whether your metabolism, you're not handling toxicities well, when you start giving your body the things that it needs to perform at a better option, it can perform better. And the effects are cumulative. Like what you see happen in your son when he first started is vastly different than what it is now.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole idea of you learn addition and subtraction and division. Like your body learns, and it learns to learn, and as it learns to learn, it can learn faster. And the effects of this stuff is absolutely cumulative, both in how long you take it, in my opinion, as well as the combination of things. So thank you for sharing that, Kathy.
Yep, you're welcome.
Awesome. Anybody else want a quick question? Otherwise, I know you got to jump off and do another Zoom. So we're appreciative of your time. And there was one question, I guess, from Brenda about speaking about gut health and autism. Do you want to just?
Oh, yeah. So long and short of that, and this is, no system is independent of any other system, right? And so if your digestive tract is messed up, you're not going to absorb your nutrients, number one. Plus, your body makes the majority of the serotonin, which is a brain chemical. And so, yeah, that's why you're talking about whole body health. Like, I mean, if I'm going to maximize, I'm going to use the right omega-3 fatty acids. I'm going to use the right probiotics, prebiotics, right, to make sure I have a healthy gut response too. And the more of that you do, the more benefit you have. And it's not, just so you know, like everything you add in the right way is going to have a benefit. Some's going to be like drastically, and some's going to be like a subtle, but you're just trying to move in the right direction.
Okay. And Dr. Brimhall, one more question. If you had one product or one thing to change in a child that struggles with this, what would you say to a mom or a dad that they could do with one of these? Maximize.
Well, I mean, it's tough, but I mean, number one, love them. That's that, and then get rid of the crap in their diet. Okay, make sure they're in a safe environment, all that. That's critical. But from a perspective, when it comes to like trying to help, people or children or adults that are struggling behavior, learning wise and stuff like that, Nerf 2 first, Axio would be number 2. Okay, and then it'd be Nerf 1, then it'd be NAD, then it'd be probiotic and fish oil. Like all of those are kind of like if I had to choose, right? And I understand that everybody had the budget, right? And so, but I always have to look at where your spending goes and apply what makes sense to you. And you may find you'll if you cut out some of the stuff that's harming the body, you have more of a budget to improve the body, because being unhealthy is very costly.
Yeah, so true. Well, thank you so much for your time, and just appreciate all you do for us and the company. I know you used to be on the scientific advisory board. Are you still, Dr. Brimhall? You are, yeah.
So far, I guess they.
Well, so we're excited to hear about the new product coming out in June. And stay tuned for that. There's going to be a big launch if you want to come to Salt Lake City. It's called Activate 2022. And we are at the end of the month. So remember to get your orders of the limited Axio coming, that's just came out this month. And that is only a limited time. But there are several other flavors to choose from, everything from dragon fruit to sour cherry, raspberry. We have an amazing lineup of different flavored Axios. And your kids will think it's, fun, yummy Kool-Aid, just, I call it my happy juice, but everybody has their favorite flavors. So thanks so much, Dr. Brimhall, for being part of our call tonight. We appreciate everything you do. Take care and have a great night. If you want to stay on, I'll answer questions. Otherwise, we'll let you go.
All right. Bye, guys. Have a great night.
Thank you.
I'll stop the recording.